Phoenix Contact enables the industry, for any number of production sites, to collect requirement data, process data, and energy data, and to evaluate that data at one central location. In this way, power generation, storage, and consumption can be balanced optimally, not just for one factory, but for entire industrial networks. For this purpose, Phoenix Contact offers highly secure, web-based platform solutions that also enable remote maintenance of machines and production plants. Maintenance times, system failures, and system downtimes are minimized, and CO2 emissions are reduced significantly, for even more efficiency and sustainability in production.
Good morning and welcome to the fourth day of the Energy Security Forum, which is the crowning event in the cycle of more than 90 events held in 2022 by the Energy Club, the biggest energy business community in Ukraine. And today we are going to talk about biomethane and challenges and opportunities for input substitution in Ukraine and the European Union. We are grateful to our partners, which is the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Nadra Geo Invest LLC, the Phoenix Contact LLC, and the government of Germany, because this event is supported by the German government project about Ukraine and the EU, implemented by the German government organization GIZ. I'd also like to draw your attention to the fact that today the Energy Club, the Ukrainian Energy Exchange, the Gas Traders Association of Ukraine are holding a special auction where 4 exclusive lots will be offered for sale, and all the proceeds will go to the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. So please look it up and you may take part. As far as the supply of electricity in Kyiv is concerned, well, I'm talking to you now from another location than I did on the 3 previous days of the Energy Security Forum, because where I live, we have water but no electricity. Where my kids live, they have electricity but no water. So I went to my radio station, and of course we don't have water here as well, but we have a stable supply of electricity. At the moment, I would say, judging from what Kyiv authorities say, half of the city is without electricity. It was 70% even yesterday, and at least 2/3 of the city are without water. Heating and gas are provided, and for this we thank our people who work in communal services and in the energy sector, because at the moment 16 out of 25 regions of Ukraine are back with electricity. Having said that, as part of the general information of the background against which we are working, and I, by the way, thank you for the interest in this, I invite our first speaker, and this is Mr. Valerii Bezus, who is head of the State Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving Agency of Ukraine.
Hello, thank you, Andriy. Thanks to all of colleagues who find the time to join our discussion and to share their thoughts and knowledges and experiences. As for now, at my office, we do not have electricity, we do not have water, and we do not have heating as well, but I'm sure it won't disturb us from our mission, and it's extremely important topic to discuss, especially in this condition, because we see biomethane as one of the key instruments to substitute natural gas here in Ukraine, and hopefully not only in Ukraine. Of course, it's extremely important for us in the context of energy security, but actually not only energy security. We shouldn't forget about all of our goals for moving towards decarbonization and following our obligations and following the process of EU integration of Ukraine. So again, it's extremely important topic. I'm sure we have a productive discussion, and I am excited to hear professional thoughts, not just in general, because I think we all know the context, and there is no need to go extremely into the details. We know, I'm sure we're all aware about the war, about the energy crisis. I'm sure we all know about the REPowerEU plans and those activities of the EU and the EU countries. So we have some assessments, quite optimistic assessment that Ukraine can produce billions cubic meters of biomethane, but I would prefer to be more conservative in these discussions and to discuss to have this discussion on how we can move towards at least millions of cubic meters of biomethane, but in a good pace, to see it clearly in the nearest future, those facilities, those possibilities to produce biomethane, to put it into the networks, and hopefully to export some part of it to keep up with the energy security, not only in Ukraine, but in the whole Europe. We've made some good job recently towards this. Our parliament approved the law to stimulate the process around a year ago. Our government approved the procedure on developing the register for guarantees of origin for biomethane. Our regulator with our Minister of Energy did some amendments to our codes that allow biomethane to be put into the networks. I know I'm very well aware of the position of our distribution system operators, as well as our gas transition system operator. Very open and very helpful position towards all the project ideas of the businesses who have the plans on producing, on trading biomethane. So we have quite helpful context, I guess, and now it's just the question of professional discussion, professional plans, and professional execution of those plans. So thank you again, and welcome to the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Bezus, for setting up the tone of the discussion and for giving us the overview and also the feeling of reassurance that we are working and you are working. And of course, when Valerii Bezus says I'm a conservative, I think this is a bit of a contradiction in terms. But anyway, and now it is my pleasure and honor to invite Karolina Cegir, who is the senior expert on gas issues at the Energy Community Secretariat, to speak up.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us actually to take a part in Energy Days in Ukraine. We are very honored from one side and of course very supportive. And from the third side, this is anyhow our job to follow developments in Ukraine. And for that, I am really, I mean, not to say grateful, but I am really very pleased to see that really this is without exaggeration, that Ukraine taking actually very advanced steps, even in the wartime, looking in the future and looking in biomethane potential and looking really in production, which can take past very fast. So we are aware of these legislative changes in continuous communication with the colleagues. So basis background is here. Now further steps should be done and developed. For that, technical assistance, of course, will be provided. I mean, many donors are looking into it, and I am confident that this is going to be done rightly. Here, I would just like to underline maybe few things why actually biomethane now, and that this chance should not be missed, because biogas was present for decades, but natural gas actually was too cheap that biomethane production would be economical one. Now, with these all unfortunate events, the future is bright for biomethane, because now biomethane is competing with the price, with the natural gas price, and this will stay for few years. I mean, according to all prognosis and all analysts. So, and this time has to be used. It's important actually, and Mr. Bezus also mentioned this great ambition set up by REPowerEU plan. So coming from 3 BCM, which is current production now, in 8 years time to 35 BCM production. It looks very ambitious, but it looks also possible. If you compare needed investments, which are significant but not so huge and not impossible. And I would just like to say that we have good example already in energy sector, and this good example, it's actually renewable electricity. And there are certain things which can just be copy-paste to the gas sector. So it should not be feed-in tariff, feed-in premium or whatever, but this clear acceptance of biomethane in the grid should be here. Investors to be incentivized to do it. Then all these gas quality issues actually should be very much clarified at the very beginning, because we have now standards which are more traditional than anything else. But Ukraine is, for example, the one taking the steps in this direction and already changed the gas quality in transmission and distribution code, just to allowing biomethane producers to be connected and to deliver the gas. And then this oxygen content was actually the case. From one side, I would say in European Union, of course, framework, and then energy community is always the bridge between the European Union legislation and legislation of contracting parties, and Ukraine is one of them. Now the gas package is open, and now things are going to be set up for all renewable gases. So we should keep in mind that biomethane is at the end of the day methane, and this is the same methane which is then gas on the gas market with all these gas rules. So with all this, who is producing, who is transmitting, what is commercial relationship between different players, and how these rules can be quickly done, and when needed maybe adjusted a bit. And from other side, we also should not forget that biomethane is coming from bioenergy and renewable energy, and it also falls under the Renewable Directive. And the Renewable Directive prescribing a lot of sustainability criteria for all fuels, including these gaseous fuels. So we should avoid the situation that one rules are relevant for the gas in the pipes, because we need this 35 BCM very quickly. And then to put actually biogases in the transport sector under other rules, because this is not what will bring overall results and all this decarbonization agenda. Third thing which I would like to underline, and where biomethane also plays a huge role, this is actually all our strategy on to decrease methane emissions. In the first place, it looks contradictory, but it's not, because each molecule of methane, which would be anyhow produced in agricultural sector or in waste, which is not managed well, it can be then used as a biomethane produced for energy purposes or transport sector purposes, is one molecule less in the air and one molecule less in emissions, which we don't need. So biomethane has the role, has the big role, and this is coming actually from three sides. And Ukraine is already taking these steps in proper way. I think for beginning would be enough from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Cegir, and also thank you for the upbeat note with which you ended your concise yet comprehensive presentation. And the next person to speak is going to be Harmen Dekker. He's the director of the European Biogas Association. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much, Andriy. So first of all, I'm Harmen Dekker from the European Biogas Association. As said, I'm truly humbled to be here and also inspired at the same time, knowing that within Europe we have been speaking about biogas and biomethane for a long time in very easy circumstances, and you are actually taking the lead in trying to really establish in a very fast way the biomethane production in your country. I know this is coming, of course, from a very bad situation, but this is also making us very humble that we see that that this can be done, and that you put your energy down there. So this is inspiring also at the same time. Let me quickly introduce. I prepared just a few slides just to help in the discussions, and we'll see if we can share my screen. That is, of course, always the issue. If you can confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, you did it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. It works. Happy for that. So first, a little bit about the EBA, European Biogas Association. So we are representing all European associations with regard to biogas and biomethane, including the one within Ukraine. And with that, we are covering the whole of Europe, but also companies are joining in. So we are representing close to 8,000 stakeholders within Europe, and lately also end users, large end users for biomethane are joining in. And those are not small companies. Those are companies like Heineken, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, and the likes. And I'll come back to that, why that is important. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has connected to the EBA as well 2 years ago. We've been in talks with regard to how can we stimulate the biogas and biomethane production within the Eastern European countries, and most notably also with Ukraine. They've developed on the basis of that a study, you probably do know this already, with regard to the potential within Ukraine. Here you see in the various regions what this means and how much can be produced. In total, that would be 9.7 billion cubic meters. I believe actually the potential is higher, because this is in total lower than the total potential of France. So you can see in only agricultural area, you'll have more to produce anyway. So this report, if you do not know it, this is open sourced, so, and I can send it as well if needed. What we have done within the EBA is 1 year ago, more than 1 year ago, we reached out to the European Commission to say that we can really contribute to the decarbonization on one hand, but also making sure that we can create extra jobs and also better agriculture with biomethane. And we asked for a target of 35 billion cubic meters, but do note that we also put in place a target for Ukraine. That was already more than 1 year ago. This was presented in late October at first. Here, what we have done is we presented a 6 BCM target for the Ukraine to be produced by 2030. So although I fully agree with Valerii that we need to be not too overly optimistic, we do think if we set the right framework that this is possible, not only within Europe, as Karolina was saying, the 35 BCM is going up from the 3 BCM we produce right now to 35. That is already a challenge, but also in the Ukraine it is possible. The real beauty is this is not only to be used for Europe. Here we presented as a part, the production was in the Ukraine providing jobs and sustainable agriculture, and maybe Europe can use it, but the source of biomethane is localized source of energy. You can either produce electricity or you have biomethane as gas for it. And by having many of those plants around in a country, you provide an extra energy security source as well. And looking at what is happening now in the Ukraine, that is probably an extra reason to make sure that we are handling this fast. Just a quick overview on where those biogas plants at first can be built. This is a zoning approach which the EBRD has put in place as well, based on a French approach where the zoning was for the first time put in place. Here you can see the various types of biogas plants which can be built close to the gas networks which are there. And so this gives also an incentive to see where to focus first on the biogas plants. Now, as the last item I would like to say is that we have established with the European Commission a biomethane industrial partnership, which we opened together with Executive Vice President Timmermans, the Energy Commissioner Kadri Simpson, and the EBA, and a large actually producer. Why do I mention this? This is about to establish this 35 BCM, but we still have in the pocket to see how we can stimulate the 6 billion cubic meters I mentioned earlier. We have established within this biomethane industrial partnership 5 task forces, but there is 1 task force waiting. And this task force is dedicated for the Ukraine. And I would like to see that we are going to step up on this, this path. I spoke only last week with the European Commission on this. I believe that they said that there is some bilateral agreement with Ukraine and the European Commission to be signed to get this rolling. But to me, I think this is a way to quickly ramp up the production within biomethane. Reason also that I say this, I almost have a once in a week, or maybe sometimes twice a week, a call of investors wanting to invest into Ukraine. Also, people who are based in the Ukraine, large agricultural companies, which would like to produce biomethane as well. And I believe that together with funding from the European countries, as well as the right frameworks within the Ukraine, we can really quickly step up the production within Ukraine itself. And I'll just pause here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dekker. This is really important for us to know all this. And now I give the floor to Jesse Scharf, who is the president of the board of the European Renewable Gas Registry.
Thank you very much, Andriy. And yeah, I think Harmen said it already, but it's very inspiring to see that you're continuing to look to the horizon and, you know, working on these projects. And honestly, I've spent so much time talking to people in different countries. I think Ukraine maybe is moving the fastest I've ever seen a country to develop their biomethane industry. So, you know, congratulations to that. And we're very happy to be able to contribute in a small way today, and hopefully more in the future. I've got a few slides. Can everyone give me a nod if they can see them? Okay, good. Just to help me remember what I should be talking about. So I've focused on these topics here that were in the event description: establishing and stimulating the biomethane market, legislative frameworks, standardization, and features of international trade. That's me. I'm the president of the board at ERGaR, so our specialty is the trade of biomethane through certificates. And I'm also the director of the Green Gas Certification Scheme in the UK, where we issue certificates for about 4 terawatt hours of biomethane each year. And here's ERGaR's membership. You might already be familiar with what we do. I won't spend too much time on these slides. Here are all the logos of our members, including all of the major biomethane registries in Europe who are active at the moment. So how can guarantees of origin and certificates help you establish and stimulate a biomethane market? For me, the key lessons are the national government must take a lead. There needs to be an incentive beyond the market price for natural gas, even if the price is very, very high at the moment. Investors with a longer timeline need certainty that they'll receive an income into 10, 15, 20 years. So that, of course, can take many forms, which I won't cover today. But just to say, some of those incentive schemes really require a strong certificate system, whether that's a guarantee of origin or a proof of sustainability, to track from the production site to the consumption site, perhaps in a transport use, and perhaps if it was the incentive was outside Ukraine, to deliver that biomethane from Ukraine to the consumption point. I would say the really important role of the certificates, particularly in the guarantee of origin space, is in stimulating the market. So if you have the government who have established a framework and an incentive structure, the role of the GOO can really be to add an extra stimulus, with the consumer playing an active role and adding value. And you get an extra boost. If you just have the market price and the government support, you might get 10 plants. If you have got consumers playing a really strong role, you might get 15 plants. So it's that additional production that doesn't need to be funded by the government. You know, we see in the UK and around Europe, the GOO price is very high at the moment, you know, to over 10 euros a megawatt hour. that can represent 10% of the income of the plant. Of course, it's different in different situations, but it's a real benefit to the plant and the production model. So going back to the government's role, it's really important that the legislative framework includes a reference to the GOs, and I'm very interested to hear earlier that that the registry the framework for the registry in Ukraine has already been established. So that sounds like a very positive step. And this is the message I give to the UK government all the time, is that the government can't set the price for the guarantee of origin. It can't force consumers to pay 10 euros a megawatt hour or 20, but they can do everything in their power to give the market confidence, so that when a consumer is interested in biomethane and they think, what is this product? Who recognizes it? Who's organizing it? They've got a really clear and trusted source of information from their own government and at the EU level, which gives them the confidence to say, yes, I'm happy to buy this product. Clearly, they want to know there's no double counting. They want to know who's counting the carbon. Are they claiming the savings? Is somebody else also claiming the savings? And if we're looking at Ukraine selling its biomethane to other countries, there could be a statistical transfer in the European framework. So that's something that I would say is not particularly clear across Europe at the moment, and needs to be resolved. Looking at standardization, of course, we've got to encourage Ukraine not to reinvent the wheel. Many other countries have established their registries, so I think everyone's willing to step in and share their knowledge. There are variations at the moment, but we are moving to a standardized system. So there's information there that can be used. Excuse me. So successful projects that we could look to, UK, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, and others are all established registries now. So that they've got a lot of experience in this space. We're issuing 4 terawatt hours a year, and we see that success coming through with the consumers, and the awareness is there from consumers that there is green gas that they can buy, and they're willing to pay a very significant price for it. Which is, it's taken a while to get there, but I think Ukraine's coming in at a good moment when there's an active and interested pool of consumers. And I've just got a few UK consumers to show you. So it's well-known brands that you might even know in Ukraine. So these are customers that maybe not based in Ukraine, but I think could potentially be interested in buying Ukrainian biomethane. From their operations in Germany or France or neighboring countries, or even in the UK. So my next slide is looking at international trade. So clearly the benefit is to open up the product to a wider pool of consumers. In the UK example, we go from 60 million to over 300 million. And those consumers can either buy their biomethane directly from the UK, just as a UK consumer would, so through our system, the Green Gas Certification Scheme, or they could buy it directly from a Ukrainian registry, or those certificates can be transferred to other registries, and that's what the role that ERGaR plays. So I won't go into all the details on this slide, but of course they can be shared later. We have the map here, and I know Máté, our Secretary General, has already been in discussions with contacts in Ukraine about the participation in the COO scheme, which as a representative of the board, we fully support. And it would be a really nice moment for us if we were able to play a role in supporting the Ukrainian biomethane industry. And I'll just go back to this slide to say that I see some similarities between the Ukrainian position and the UK position, in that we are not members of the European Union, but we're neighbours to the European Union, and we're both what would be considered third countries, although of course Ukraine is hopefully heading in the direction towards the European Union, and we've headed away, but we're both in the same situation for guarantees of origin. There's the potential to sign this mutual recognition agreement, but even without that, what we see in the UK is there's still a strong demand from EU customers for our certificates, which don't have, let's say, an official status as a GO, but still represent biomethane that's matched to your consumption. So hopefully that was a positive note for Ukrainian biomethane producers, even outside the European Union. I think there's been a demand for certificates. Okay, yeah, thanks very much for having me on again today, and look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Although Mr. Scharf did not go into every detail of every slide, the presentation was rather detailed and therefore useful and, yes, interesting. We, of course, do not have everybody joining who are on the list. Mr. Scharf, you may quit sharing your screen, by the way. Yes. Thank you. We unfortunately do not have everyone who's on the list of speakers because especially Ukrainian users are experiencing some difficulties. So we have still an impressive list of other speakers, and the next person to get the floor is Máté Fuchsz. He's head of the Business Development Department in the Central and Eastern Europe of Landwärme GmbH from Germany.
Hello. So thank you very much for the possibility to be here and to share some thoughts from my side. So I didn't prepare the presentation, but I just would like to reflect on what the other speakers already told and what we experienced in the last approximately 10 years since we developed projects in the Central and Eastern European region. So I personally come from Hungary, and I could develop a project at a big sugar factory that is the only injection site in Hungary. So that one is in operation since 2015, and it's producing approximately 5 million cubic meter biomethane a year. So Landwärme is trading on a yearly basis approximately 350 million cubic meter biomethane. So it's a big portion of the, let's say, available quantities of the German market. And just my experiences, what I collected in the last few years when we developed this Hungarian project, I would like to share it with you. So the first one, Karolina already said that there are always problems with the quality criteria. DSO and TSO is always asking in a country where is no biomethane production that, okay, how it should work. Will it be safe for the energy supply to the end customers in that region when I'm going to build the biomethane production site? So I think we can completely understand that, but yes, it will be safe. And I have to tell you that in Hungary, we had many meetings with the DSO and with the TSO. Right now, when there is a new project which is going to start and would like to inject into the grid, the TSO, the Hungarian TSO, is actually really supportive and try to convince the DSOs in the different regions that please support the biomethane production, there will be no problem. So I really hope that it will be the same situation in Ukraine. After the first project starts, everybody see that it is working, then it will be better and easier for the next projects. The next one, which I just would like to say is that there was also the feedstocks. So we saw that there are many different feedstocks which could be used and will be used also in Ukraine for the biogas and biomethane production. I think here it is really important to differentiate between the biofuel sector, so where we have to produce a sustainable material, and we have to fulfill the criteria of the sustainability declarations, etc. So that's will be also a challenge for everybody. But we have also voluntary markets here in Western Europe, which is waiting for biomethane. As Jesse already mentioned, there are companies, also end customers, so households, they would like to buy biomethane, so renewable energy. So I think that it is good to know for so everybody who would like to develop a project that not all the biomass which will be used for the biogas production must be sustainable according to the Renewable Energy Directive. You can use different products for different uses. This is also the situation in this Hungarian project. So just half of the biomethane production is actually sustainable, so that we have all the paperwork for that material. The other part of the biomethane is coming from waste and residues of the industry, but it is not sustainable according to the RED II, because we do not have all the documentation what would be necessary. But there are markets which are taking this biomethane and are ready to pay for it. The last thing which I would like to mention is that what can be biomethane? So how can it secure the gas supply? So there is one story from this site in Kaposvár. Actually two. So the first one is that when we just made some news about it, that yeah, we would like to develop their biomethane project. So people immediately recognize that, okay, the gas quality is going down and it is not as good as it was before the announcement of this biomethane project. The biomethane injection just started a few years later. So people should be always aware with that problem that there could be quality issues, but later when really the injection started and it was fully producing the biomethane, is that sometimes there are also maintenance on the gas grid. So maybe you cannot get gas from the transport grid, but because normally these biogas plants, biomethane upgrading units are injecting into the distribution grid, people and end users, if there is some interruption on the transport grid connection, they still can use everything and they do not recognize there are technical problems because the biomethane plant could supply enough gas for that gas grid. So that's something what I just want to say, that yeah, biomethane can be a part of for the in the supply chain of the gas consumption, and it is a good one. So that's from my side, some thoughts about the biomethane use. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing these thoughts. We were attentive, and of course, this will find its continuation in our further work. And I'm happy to invite to speak Mr. Javier Cervera. He's the Vice President of the Association of Energy Engineers in Spain.
Thank you very much for the invitation and all the support from our association and Spain for your situation. Obviously, I've been 2 weeks in the conference in Egypt, and all the plenary was supporting the big important fight that you have, obviously with the war and obviously the complicated situation to try to have the objectives in the climate change. There, the star topic has been hydrogen. That is one of the REPowerEU objectives that we have in Europe. The other is biomethane that we are talking today. But really, from the engineering point of view, we think that biomethane is more realistic and is the present. The hydrogen is a medium term and is the future. So for us, it's really, really important to push the most possible engineered solutions to take the maximum advantage of the feedstock to produce the maximum volume of biomethane. I'm sharing a presentation. Spain is a country that still is not much developed like other countries like Germany, France, Italy, etc. in biomethane, but now we are just starting on it. Only very few slides talking about how the natural gas system is in Spain. Perhaps you know that we are the most advanced the most advanced infrastructure to receive natural gas, but we have the fully dependency in external natural gas. So we have the own objectives to produce biomethane, the own biomethane for us, and to export, why not, to European countries or countries like Ukraine coming to the European Union or European natural gas grid. We have only 3 biomethane plants injecting to the pipe at the end of last year. From now, we have another 3 in the 2022. If we see the numbers in the European context, has many biogas plants, but only 1% is biomethane, and the REPowerEU, the objective that we know, it will be arriving at something like 10% of the natural gas demand in the region in Europe. If we see this report telling us how is the production according to the country, we can see that Spain is in a good position as a potential. And if we see a bit longer, in 2050, that is the time that Europe wants to be neutral, we can get 91 BCM of organic, another 60 with thermal gasification, the second by biogas technology to obtain the biomethane. This is the movement from 2030 to 2050. What about Spain? Spain has very few number of biogas plants at the moment. We are just increasing very fast, but the starting point is reduced, and less than 5% is producing biomethane. Currently, these 6 plants that I have told you. We have an objective, still short, but we are moving this objective. Will be a new one at the end of this year, and we hope that arrive the 3%, the 3 BCMs that we have to get, like 10% of the European citizens that we are in Europe, that we are in Spain according to the percentage in Europe. The challenge to arrive to these numbers with the 3rd potential country in Europe. Obviously, to produce a maximum biogas plants, big ones with the feedstock, but we need to push for 2 concrete technologies, that is getting all the organic municipal waste as possible and to work in the small farms to get biomethane from them. These are the projects that we are, and this is the objective for the next 3 years. We are growing a lot. These are new realistic projects under construction just now, and we have support from the Spanish government. Fewer than other countries that, like Italy, that is pushing a lot more money from the. I was talking about big plants. We are upgrading this biogas to electricity to biomethane to inject in the Spanish grid. You have options. This is one of the biggest biogas plants in Ukraine from a sugar plant. You produce many million cubic meters per year, and if you do the upgrading to inject on the pipe, you can have according biomethane to provide, for example, 1,500 natural gas buses or more than 35,000 natural gas running with only this biogas plant that you have now in Ukraine, and you are converting it into electricity. And the small biogas plants, this kind of projects, this is one project with 30,000 chicken in Spain. They produce 4 tons of manure every day. And it's possible with this really small size to produce biomethane, upgrading with small devices and produce biomethane for providing directly mobility, like I showed you here. With this device and a small biogas plant, we produce directly biomethane and we don't have to inject on the pipe. We are here providing biomethane for tractor and providing for cars. Our other projects, this is just now under construction with 100 cows manure and organic kitchen from 200 citizens on the small town, is providing electricity for 100 houses and biomethane for 5 cars, all happening in this small town. These are options to produce biomethane locally and not depending on the grid that sometimes we can have any problem on the grid. You can produce more biomethane with very, very local feedstock and with efficient and economically available because you are applying directly to mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cervera. It was worth rejoining us for to say this and for us to hear you. And now I give the floor to Valerii Bezus, whom I ask to sum up the discussion in addition to what you wanted to say otherwise, Mr. Bezus.
Thank you, Andriy. I tried to give you a hand to keep the audience warm till Mr. Cervera was reconnecting. Anyway, thanks a lot, dear colleagues, for your thoughts, for your remarks, from your experience, and for your views. Yes, it's a very important topic. As for now, the agency is working hard on establishing and on developing the register for guarantees of origin. We have a deadline in 2 months. I'm not sure if we can develop the exemplary register, but it will be the register in Ukraine, and unfortunately we do not will not have a wave of requests for GOs in 2 months, but we'll be able to provide all the assistance and all the work needed for GOs in 2 months. Hopefully, we'll continue to work the system, to work out the system, and to make it more and more potent. I hope that we'll have a lot of projects that will proceed with the idea for establishing not just added biomethane production to those biogas facilities that we are already have, but establishing a new, the whole cycle facilities, because, you know, it's very important to have this pilot project, new pilot projects to show our businesses, our communities on how to proceed with the idea of biogas to biomethane production. The agency is the executive body, governmental executive body in Ukraine in the field on realization, execution, the policy in this sector. So we are very open to any ideas or maybe any assistance needed for the investors, for the businesses who are interested in at least preparation, preliminary work on business ideas, pre-feasibility study conduction, and so on, so on. So please do not hesitate to connect with us and to get any kind of help from our side. As well as we have some ideas on how to rebuild our economy and how to rebuild our regions, especially those ones who suffered the most from the aggression. As an example, we have quite mature idea on how to rebuild one of our regions, Chernihiv regions, with the north of Ukraine, which suffered a lot from the aggression. And we have this idea to rebuild communities by establishing and by energy clusters. So maybe there is a sphere that we can additionally discuss if there is any interest from your side. Thanks a lot again for your joining this discussion. Hope we will be in touch and get your help further. Thanks a lot.
Almost as soon as Valerii Bezus started to pronounce his final remarks, Mr. Scharf raised his hand. So a question, a remark, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a final remark. So sorry for taking up more time, but I was interested on the guarantees of origin.
It's useful, I'm sure.
Okay, hopefully. That you are establishing the framework, but I'm sure you're finding that building a new IT system is expensive and difficult. So I'm wondering if you've spoken to any of the existing registries who might be able to be willing to lend you a small part of their IT. So if when the first plant injects, they can open an account in an existing IT system, maybe using your rules and your framework, but to save you the expense of building your own IT.
Yes, thank you. We have such contacts. We've been studying of course we've been studying the experience, and we took a look at some registers already from I guess an Austrian register and the Austrian company who provides such registers for different countries in Europe. We've been negotiating with Germany agency DENA on possible support of our activities in this field. So yes, we are trying not to invent the bike for sure, but to have the register that we can use and we can push it forward. And I would say we have an idea to add some value to this pan-European movement, and actually we have an idea to establish a unified platform for different registers of guarantees of origin for different kinds of energy. I think it would be great to have such experience for the whole Europe, to have the unified platform. Nevertheless, we are quite realistic, and we know that we should do the right steps and have the results as soon as possible. So yes, thank you. And we had contacts with Regatrace, with ERGaR. Thanks a lot for this communication. It is very helpful for us. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, if you speak to
thank
DENA and
you.
to AGCS, then you're speaking to the right people.
Yeah,
And of
AGS.
course,
Yeah.
just send me an email as well, or Matthias, for further conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Also, the communication between our participants took place in the chat, which shows that we are not stopping at the offered ways of communication and cooperation. We're constantly on the lookout for better communication and cooperation, and for better use of your very important and very valued knowledge and expertise. So to round this up, I'd say thank you everyone for not only being profound in your presentations, but also for being concise. And till we meet again, keep up the good work. Goodbye.